Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Amy.
We both grew up with dads who drank too much.
So we are both adult children of alcoholics.
And we're here to talk about our experiences using honesty and some pretty dark humour. We'll be chatting to a variety of people affected by alcohol addiction.
Our dads were both called Steve and they're both dead now, which means we can finally have the conversations we've wanted to.
You had to go there already, didn't you?
We've had a lot of experiences between us and we are both really passionate about helping other people.
So let's sit back, relax and join us with Sarah and Amy, Children of Alcoholics podcast.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sarah and Amy, the Children of Alcoholics podcast. Today we are joined by the wonderful Jen Payne, the Nacoa volunteer and recently announced Nacoa ambassador. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Oh, it's so nice to have you here. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Life's been busy, but I'm good.
How's the recent announcement of the ambassadorship?
Yeah, still can't get around it. Still getting my head around it. It's really great. I used to make a joke I do make jokes to Piers every time I see him when he says, "You're an ambassador." I'm like, "Not yet." So, hopefully, yeah, I am now, which is, it's really exciting. And, from you guys know, Nacoa is just so important and it's so amazing to be a part of. So to be an ambassador is just amazing.
So I think you've been involved slightly longer than I have.
I did your training.
You did my training.
I think you did mine as well.
Yeah, I did. And Sober Dave's.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So when did you get involved? It must have been like 2019.
Yeah, it was the year I got married, which was 2019. Yeah, and I did the training towards the end, and then very quickly, Josh kind of was messaging me going, "You've got to do a lunchtime lab," and I was like, "Okay," and then that was kind of like the initiation into the bigger part of Nacoa. And then since then I've just been being asked to do lovely things for Nacoa, and it's just been a bit of a whirlwind since then, really. It's
kind of quite a big, for most of us, it's quite a big part of our lives,
huge,
isn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't really know what to expect as a trainee until I started doing the work. Because as a trainee, you just you're so keen when you sign up to the training courses and you're like, right, I want to get out there, I want to jump into schools, I want to go and do this, I want to go and do that. And you kind of want to throw yourself into it. And it's not until you start doing the work that you realise, actually for me, I started realising how much I was still impacted by my childhood. And still now to this day, being an adult child of an alcoholic. So I feel like it's starting to help me come to terms with what it actually is that happened.
So you're in a slightly different position to Sarah and I, in that your parent is still alive and in active addiction at the moment.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it's my mum and she's drank her whole life. We also lost, I think I'm like the 5th generation of alcoholics, which is just crazy, all on the same family line. But my mum's drank her whole life, and probably the last 20 years, it's just been horrendous and it's just got worse and worse. And she will just never admit that she's an alcoholic and she just can't see what she's doing. She can't understand the relationship that we don't have. And she's recently actually been diagnosed with alcoholic Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. So she's just in a really bad place at the moment, but she won't admit that it's the alcohol that's doing it, even now.
And she still lives with your dad, is that right?
Yeah, they're still together. Dad is very loyal and he won't leave. He married her, he says, through sickness and health, and that's what he's doing.
How does your dad find it in terms of you talking about it?
We don't talk about it. He knows I do it. He knows that I'm part of this charity, but he doesn't want to know the details, which is why I think I've spoke candidly to Piers over the years about what I get involved in and what I don't, and what's published and what's not. And I'm happy for things to be out there on the Nacoa pages, but I'm very limited of what I publish on my own private accounts, because it's just, I want to protect him to a point as well. And my sister.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, I would never have done any of this while my dad was alive.
But this is one of the reasons why I do it, because I think a lot of the volunteers that I know and spoken to, their parents have passed or their guardians have passed. And I think, and I spoke to Piers again about this a few months ago, I don't think there's enough. That's why I do it personally, because I want to be the voice of people who are currently in that situation, because it's crap.
Yeah.
It's ultimately, it's so rubbish. And
I'm in total awe. I actually didn't know about Nacoa while my dad was alive, and I found them really literally within about 3 days of him dying. But I'm completely in awe of the fact that you are able to do it. And you're right, it's so powerful, because I'm kind of 4 years down the line and I can absolutely remember how awful and harrowing and distressing and stressful it was.
Yeah.
But I absolutely do have that distance. And I can support somebody going through it. But your memories do fade. You do. And, your understanding changes, and I'm going to say sympathies, which probably isn't quite the right word, but your understanding around it and your feelings change as well when that parent's no longer here.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really freeing, and it gave me the opportunity to finally say the things that I wanted to. But up until my dad died, I knew he was an alcoholic, but I probably wouldn't have told anybody. All credit to you, because it's amazing and it's so, so helpful for people.
Yeah, and that's ultimately why I'm doing it. And I think, I don't really have a relationship with her at the moment, even though I think she thinks that we do. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if she hears about it, what relationship is it going to ruin? Because we actually don't have one. So whether she knows I'm talking about it or not, you know, what damage is it going to cause? It's either going to make her go, oh, okay, hold on a second, I didn't realize you felt like that, or it's just going to give her another reason to have a drink. It's never going to change. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why not? The only thing I do need to be careful of is my dad, because he's doing it every day. I moved away from it. Yeah. He's living there. He's in it. He's doing it. And he deals with it every single day. So that's the only thing I need to be mindful of.
So in terms of her recent diagnosis, which is an alcohol-specific illness that she's received a diagnosis of, has there been any conversation around the fact this diagnosis has been received because of your addiction to alcohol?
So the GP at the time basically gave leaflets to my dad and said, it's hereditary, tell your children. This alcohol addiction is hereditary. And my dad was like, okay, that's not helpful. But also from her perspective, all she's heard is Alzheimer's. She hasn't heard the other words. Whether she just chooses not to or blocks it out, I don't know. She's got osteoporosis. She's got fatty liver disease. She's got all these things caused by alcohol, but she doesn't see it as that. She just sees it, oh, I'm not very well. Oh, I need to make sure, you need to be here for me, and just excuses to drink more, really. I'm really sad, and, no one's here for me. And she just uses it as excuses. She doesn't see why it's happening.
I find that my dad had loads of kind of medical problems as a result of his addiction, but they would always be attributed to something else.
Yeah.
And it was mad. And you could see that, well, no, actually, the reason you're having mini strokes, the reason that his bones were crumbling, and the reason that you've got multiple heart conditions is all because of that.
Yeah.
But there'd always be a justification. Like his bad back was because he used to run marathons, or the TIAs were because he was on some sort of drug which caused them. And then he went down this mad rabbit hole where he'd been put on blood thinners and made this big fuss about how he couldn't eat broccoli. And I was like, no, you just need to stop drinking.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the broccoli.
Yeah. My dad, 3 days before he died, was convinced his liver failure symptoms were a result of an old mercury filling in his mouth, and was adamant that he had mercury poisoning. To the point where he went to the dentist and actually insisted to the dentist, I have mercury poisoning.
I think it speaks volumes, though, doesn't it? Because to me, it's affecting their brain. And to me, that then becomes a mental illness. So why is it not why, if something so severe is affecting your brain activity in such a severe way, like why is there not more support from doctors, GPs, hospitals? Why is there not more medical support? And why is it just a leaflet and off you go? Yeah. Because it's physically, changing the way that you think and that your mind is.
The support isn't there, regardless of times that my dad was in hospital and medically detoxed. There wasn't even a leaflet. It was literally kind of patch you up. And certainly on the days that I would go and visit, nobody ever kind of said a word about this is what you can access, this is what's available. I think the medical, I've got a few friends who work in the profession. I think they just see so much of the negative side of addiction. And, they're there to treat the patient. And ultimately, I think the general consensus is they've chosen to do it. They're not going to get better because, statistically, the vast majority of people in alcohol addiction don't recover from that.
Yeah.
And I suppose they look at it, and I think you had an experience around this, didn't you, Sarah, where, they'd rather treat, in inverted commas, like proper sick people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they said. They'd rather treat heart attack and stroke patients,
which I understand because it's self-inflicted. It's something that people choose to do, and there is help out there if they want it. But if there comes a point in their addiction where it's no longer a choice for them, it's a must and it's a need, and I think that's when we really should be looking more into the early interventions. I'm not a medical professional anyway. I'm HR, so I don't think it qualifies me. But just
I've
from
watched
experience,
a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah,
super qualified.
But it's so difficult. And like I said, my mum's been in hospital. I'm sure you guys did the same with your parents. But in and out she had a fall or a fit because she didn't drink alcohol for 24 hours and she cracked her skull open and then she was back in again because she severed her hand with a knife because she tried to cut open something when she was absolutely hammered. And there's like things like this. It's like they cost an NHS so much more money because of the amount of times that they're in and out. If they just start at the beginning and support them, it may actually save money in the long run. It's kind of getting to the root of the cause before the issue comes. But it's just at this stage in her addiction, we're all kind of just waiting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's kind of, we're waiting for that call. And my dad, bless him, he's not a very talkative person. I don't know where I get it from, but he doesn't really talk that much and he's not really great with his emotions. He kind of he is how he is. But he never really calls me that often. I have to message him and go, "Are you still alive?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm still here." And every time he does call me, I'm like, "Is this the call?" It's just, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for it because he only ever calls me if someone's died. In the family or or something's happened. He's like it's always like, "Oh, so-and-so's passed away," or "So-and-so's done this," and so I always just think, when he does call me, I was like, is it
my dad lives on his own, but if I ever got a call from a number I didn't recognise, my default response would be that is somebody phoning to tell me.
You're constantly on eggshells. And even my sister, because she lived not far from my dad, and she used to say whenever an ambulance or a siren would go past, she'd think, "Is that for him?" So
my nan was totally different experience. We never knew that she was an alcoholic until it was too late.
So it didn't affect her behaviour?
No.
Or was it just that you knew that was the only behaviour you knew?
No, she never drank really until later in life. And we lost my uncle David died through alcohol, which was her brother. And we knew she drank a bit more, but no more than, she ran a pub. So when she'd work on the weekend, she'd have a drink and we were like, "Oh yeah." We didn't think anything of it. And then it wasn't until Granddad called me, which was very unusual. And we went in and she was yellow. And I was like, "What is happening? Like, why are you yellow?" And she couldn't walk. And she had this date. My Uncle David had it. And I never forget it. It's like this, I call it the alcoholic shuffle, because they shuffle because they can't pick up their feet and they just kind of shuffle towards the door. And I saw her doing it and I was thinking, oh my God, it's happening. And I just knew in that moment that she was going to die. I just was like, she's going to die. Like, that's it. So I called my auntie, and my auntie lived around the corner. I said, you need to get around here now. She came around, and we were just like, what do we do? And this was on the Monday. We took her into hospital, and it just happened overnight. Suddenly the day before, she was like fine. The next day she was like this. And we took her to the hospital on the Monday, and she died on Friday. That was it. She went into a coma on the Wednesday, and she never came out. And she died of liver failure.
Wow, with nothing that had ever alerted you.
She ran a bar. So we knew we knew she drank, but she used to really be quite critical of my mum about it. She used to really, we used to hear really harsh conversations of her being like, if you don't sort yourself out, you're going to die. And because Uncle David did the same way, and her mum, my grandma's, my nan's parents both died of alcohol as well. So she was very much like, don't end up like them. We heard the conversations, she used to really go in on it.
An alcoholic hates nothing more than another alcoholic. My dad was so scathing about anybody with an addiction. I remember sort of saying to him once about going to AA. He just said, why would I want to go into a room with a load of losers that drink too much? And was so negative around it being a weakness, and he didn't align himself with those people.
Yeah.
I don't know whether because he didn't think he had an addiction, or whether he didn't want to admit it. Maybe it holds a mirror up to you, and you don't, it's easier to deflect it onto somebody else than it is to kind of admit.
Yeah, that was a huge blow for me, because she was my like kind of get out when mum was being really bad. She was kind of like the person I'd go to, and I always knew that she'd have my back, because mum blames me for a lot of stuff. So she was that one person. When she died, it was like, what do I do now? Like, what happens?
So is your mum always drunk?
Yeah. She's always drank. When we were younger, we never really thought it was a huge issue. I don't think I really knew what was really happening. I just knew she liked to have a drink, and probably a bit too much. But I told a story on actually one of the Nacoa lives a few years ago, and I only found this out probably about 4 Christmases ago. And I went home for Christmas, which I never do, unfortunately. But we went home one year for Christmas, and my dad puts the Christmas tree up, and it's the same decorations every year, and it's very much the same old tree since we were about 2. And there was a decoration on the tree that I made when I was in school, and I was 7, because it said Jen, age 7 on the back of this decoration, and it said, Christmas wish, I wish my mum would stop drinking. Aww. I wish my mum and dad wouldn't argue. Jen, age 7. And I was like thinking, why did no one in school ask me about that?
Yeah.
Like, why did not one teacher say, what's happening here then, But my mum was also a teacher at the same school.
I find that's heartbreaking, but I also find that for some people, they find it really uncomfortable to engage in conversation, because it holds a mirror up to their own drinking habits.
Yeah.
Like, so many people would say to me, oh, your dad's not that bad. I drink more than your dad, and I'm not an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like that so many people are so afraid to acknowledge it and associate or relate to it. There's such a stigma, there's such a taboo attached to it that nobody really wants to talk about it or even have that conversation.
Well, my mum always used to say, she likes to make up stories. She says these things. And I was just always known as the girl that likes to make up stories. And so then it kind of got to the point where whatever I'd say, people are like, oh, don't be silly, Jen. Like, that's not right. And, think about what you're saying. So then I felt really awful. So then it kind of made me think, well, actually, is it me? Am I the problem? Is it me that's making this up? Am I the one thinking that there's something there that it's not? which then leads to a whole other things.
But then she didn't fit people's stereotype of what she was a teacher in the school.
Yeah, life and soul of the party. So lovely, very generous, you know, very, very thoughtful, you know, so, you know, it didn't fit that.
If she'd have been sending you in filthy uniform or not sending you in, or you were going to school, that's what people think.
Yeah.
A child of an alcoholic is.
Yeah.
And that wasn't my experience. I don't think it was your experience, and it wasn't yours either. And actually, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have those things.
Yeah.
And I do think that is such a barrier to people asking for help. And also, like you said, you don't know. When you're younger and that's all you know, you don't know. You might know that you feel scared or your parents' behaviour is worrying. And I was always so fearful of my dad dying. It's, you know, for years.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that everybody else didn't feel like that.
Yeah. Because no one talks about it.
No. And also, you're probably not going to rock up to secondary school in year 7 and go, oh, hi guys, do any of you wait for your parents to get home at night?
Yeah.
Do you walk on the roadside of the pavement so your parent doesn't fall into the road and get run over by a car, or any of those things? Because whilst it's your normal, you also know it's probably not what other people are doing.
Yeah. So you make it's a secret. It then becomes a secret, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My mum, interesting fact about my mum, I've never seen her with a glass in her hand. I've never seen her drink.
You've never seen her drink?
So what does she drink and where does she drink?
She drinks anything, and she drinks in her room, and she drinks it straight out of the bottle. We can hear it. I can hear the clink and the drawer opening, and I can hear the bottle screw opening. But she's never sat downstairs in the living room with a glass of wine or gin and tonic or anything like that. Everything is straight, everything is raw, everything's out of the bottle, and everything's a secret.
I knew we'd reached a real tipping point in our story. My dad would make a big thing. He'd come for Christmas and, you know, I'd have a bottle of wine on the table because really, what's the point?
Yeah.
And I'd say, do you want a glass? No. Okay, this is ridiculous, but sure. And then he came one Christmas and we had wooden floors upstairs and he was sleeping in my son's room. And he would only have been about 2.5, 3 at the time. So we chipped him out and my dad was sleeping in my son's room. And that night at about 2:00, I heard him shuffling around exactly as you said, because he didn't walk properly. I heard him shuffling around on this wooden floor. And then I heard a bottle lid hit the floor. And then when I went in the next day, his whole kind of weekend bag, the whole bottom of it was filled with Evian bottles. So they were disguised as water with basically vodka in. And that was that first point where I thought, oh my God, this is a proper, like this is not what I thought anymore. Like we're in a whole new territory now.
Yeah.
If your body is waking you up at 2 a.m., it's really changed, like it really shifted.
Yeah.
Dependency element, isn't it?
Yeah. Mum has like what I call a medicated amount a day because she fits. So she has to have something. But even then we don't see her doing it. It's all very kept in secret still. And I don't stay there very often anymore. But when I do stay, I kind of go back to that moment. Those times when I was younger where I'm like, I sit up all night listening for the drawer to open or the bottle to clink or the lid to screw off, because I was always ready to then barge in there and be like, put it down, put it away. You don't need that, ready to try and help and save the day. And in the end, I just said, there's just no point because it just causes so much more arguments.
So did you used to go in and kind of take it off?
I used to take it out the drawer. I used to throw it down the sink. I used to put it in the bin because it was just, I hated it. I absolutely, it literally, it makes my blood boil being in that house because those moments of me, my sister was younger than me and my dad works long hours. So, I tried to clean up before they got home and I tried to hide a lot of it from my sister. And I've, you know, picked her up off the floor before and give her a bath, washed the sick out of her hair. Like, you know, I've done all of that because I didn't want my dad and sister to see it. And I was trying to make it look normal and have a normal family. So many times. And I just hated it. Like, I just tried everything to stop it.
So like thinking back to when you were at school, which is, you know, teenage girls, it's a challenging time anyway.
Yeah.
How would you say your kind of school life was impacted by knowing that? Like, did it affect your day? Did it affect your learning? Did you not bring friends home?
So I did bring friends home occasionally, but it was very rare because I've got a very good group of friends, which I'm still friends with now, and they're just gorgeous girls, and they'll always be in my life. But they also witness quite a lot. Not very often, but I tended to go out more so than they come to me. Friday, Saturday when I was younger was always the worst because she worked in a school, so she tended not to drink as much in the week, but she still drank. But then Friday, Saturday, she'd just go for it. So it was quite difficult at the weekends, but I didn't really say anything to anybody. But there was a moment where my mum, I had a 13th birthday party, and I say party, there's like 6 people that came. It was just in my house, and it was just a little gathering. And my mum got so drunk, so unbelievably drunk. And she told one of my friends that she was dying. And I just couldn't, I was like, what? And my friend in school, like in school the next week, she was like, oh, your mum said she was dying and I hope you're okay. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, I asked her and she didn't remember what she said, but apparently she told my friend that she had cancer and she was dying. And I was like, why would you do that? Like, I think it was 13, so year 7, year 8, and such a vulnerable age as well, you know, trying to make friends and trying to new school. And luckily my friend was amazing about it, and she was just like, oh, don't worry about it, it's fine. Because I had to then go in and go, I'm really sorry, but she wasn't telling the truth. Like, she was lying and she was just really drunk. I'm really sorry. And she was like, it's fine. But I just was like, what are you doing? Like, why have you done that? Why have you said that? And that was then the moment where I thought, okay, I can't have anyone here anymore. Like, no one can come to our house. Like, that's it.
Did any friends' parents know what was happening? Did anyone kind of scoop you up?
No, we didn't talk about it. I didn't talk about it from that point because I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed having to go into school and go, I'm really sorry my mum lied to you. It was the most, just for a 13-year-old girl, was just heartbreaking. I was so nervous going into school, and I was so scared about what she was going to say. And I was thinking, what if she tells somebody else? What if someone else finds out and then they start bullying me? And it was just heartbreaking. So I just didn't invite anyone back after that. I just thought that's it. But we didn't then talk about it again. And she was amazing. She's still my friend now, and we're best friends now. She's gorgeous, and she would never say anything. And I was very lucky for it to have happened to her out of anybody. But yeah, no, we didn't tell anyone. We didn't say anything.
And then kind of during the day at school, was it a useful distraction, or did you spend a lot of time worrying about what would happen when you got home?
I think it was a bit of both. It was a distraction because I love school. I loved my senior school and I loved what I was doing there, but it was the worry of what would happen in the evening, but it was more so the worry of what would happen at the weekends. That was kind of building up to the week, end of the week, because she worked in a school, so during the week she was okay. It was more than Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then it went to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Tuesday. So as the years gone on, it just got more and more and more.
And did she end up not teaching anymore because of it?
Yeah, she got fired from her job for having alcohol on site. Yeah. So she lost her job. Unfortunately, she took alcohol into the school, and she also had, I think it was like a fish dinner or something for lunch, but one of the children in her school had a massive fish allergy. And because she was drinking, she didn't put two and two together, and she got caught, and they dismissed her, and she eventually lost her job.
Did she ever get back into teaching?
No. She hasn't worked since. And has become more of an alcoholic than ever.
Don't know what to say now. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a hell of a lot.
I think the older I'm getting, the more I think it's affecting me. I don't think it affected me as much as a child, because it was what it was. And the situation at the time, I had friends I could go to. I had really good friends, and I spent a lot of time visiting at the weekend and going out in the week. And like, I spent a lot of time out of the house as well. But I think now, being an adult and choosing not to spend time with her and having to choose whether I see her or not, I think is very difficult, because I know she's going to die. So the guilt of, do I see her at Christmas? Do I see her on her birthday? Do I go down for, like, whatever the occasion is? I think that's what I'm struggling with the most, because when you're a child, you just do what your parents say. You just get along with it. You kind of don't have those decisions to make. But now I have to make those decisions. It has to be my decision. It's my life. I'm 36, only as of yesterday, actually.
Still about 20.
But it's now, that's when it's making me, this is the most difficult part of it, I think, as an adult.
Yeah, you're right. Because when you're a child, you can see that it's awful, but your options, you can kind of make choices to look after yourself and talk to people and seek support if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
But ultimately, to some extent, you are kind of trapped in that situation.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. For years, I assumed every Christmas was my dad's last. Mm-hmm. So I put myself in really difficult positions.
Yeah.
Or situations where I knew that he was going to make it, even getting married. Or, when the kids, he was a nightmare at my daughter's christening, and kind of got in a car really drunk and like genuinely like ruins the day as I had expected. But also, at what point I was never brave enough, and I do genuinely think it's incredibly brave. I was never brave enough to walk away, because I worked out that actually, in terms of my mental health and my peace with it, I'd almost kind of sacrifice myself for whatever, but and it was never going to be long term, because he was so poorly. But I knew, for me, I would feel better about myself if I had sort of made those sacrifices. But I think walking away is so much braver than not.
I don't see her as much as I think I should. I don't message her back. If she calls me, I don't answer. And I feel guilty about that, but I don't know what she's going to say. And 9 times out of 10, it's not very nice.
But also, why would you? Because if that was a friend or a colleague or maybe a member of extended family, you absolutely would not put up with it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem when it's a parent, is that we feel this sense of duty to be a good child, possibly try and look after them, and all of those things.
Yeah.
I think the parent-child relationship is really tricky, because you absolutely would, if you were in a marriage with somebody who was speaking to you like that, you'd be having real kind of conversations with other people about not being part of that marriage, for example. And society allows you to break connections with everybody. And I know Josh Connolly's done loads of stuff around kind of breaking up with toxic parents, but it's such a stigma around it.
And everyone I speak to about it, it's like, oh yeah, but she's your mom. And it's like, yeah, but does that give her the right to speak to me like that? Like, and I've had the same argument with my dad a few times, and he's like, oh, because it was her birthday, the 1st of January, and I sent a card this year, but I didn't send her anything. And my dad was just, why have you not sent her a gift? And I was like,
what's the point?
When was the last time she spoke to me it was my birthday this weekend and I didn't hear from her. And I don't remember the last time, I can't remember the last time she did speak to me on my birthday. And it's like, why should I?
Yeah.
And I did in the end, because just to kind of help dad, and because I think he was getting it in the neck then from mum. But it's just like, I feel really like, I don't feel like empowered I can make those decisions at the moment. I feel like I'm trying to be empowered and I'm trying to make those decisions and I'm trying to look after myself, but then I can't, because it just controls everything. And you're right, when we got married, it was always like, do we invite her? Do we not invite her? I decided to not have her involved in any part of my wedding whatsoever, which was hard because she's your mom. But then on the whole day, I was like, what's she doing? Where is she? What's she drinking? I asked the venue to give her non-alcoholic wine and non-alcoholic Prosecco. And like, she didn't know. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I trying to do this? And then since we got married, we've been through a hell of a lot. My husband's mum passed away with lung cancer, and she was kind of like she was a mother figure as well in my life. And we've had our own issues with infertility, and you think, you go through stuff like that and you just think, oh my gosh, like, these are the times you want your mom, and people lose their mum for other reasons, which I get is difficult. But I think I said it recently in a post I did recently for Nacoa. I feel like she's died, but she's still there, and that's the most heartbreaking thing. Like, I can see her and she's there and I can reach out and touch her, but she's not my mum.
I read a lot about this. It's called anticipatory grief.
Yeah.
So I kind of waited I always say, like, I waited 20 years for my dad to die. Like, at any point in the 20 years up until the point he died, he could have died.
Yeah.
And actually, so I was expecting that to happen at any point, so I used to go to bed and make sure my phone was next to me with the volume on, because I didn't want to miss that call.
Yeah.
But also, every time he didn't show up in the way I wanted him to, or every time he didn't act in the way that I wanted or needed my dad to, that was another little part of the grief. And actually, by the time my dad died, he wasn't my dad. There was nothing that made him recognisable as the guy. I mean, I really loved my dad. And, as a kid, he was brilliant fun, and we had a really similar sense of humour, and I was really close to him. But that guy was gone. And he hadn't just gone overnight. He'd literally gone kind of step by step by step.
You just watch them slowly disintegrate and become a completely different human being and not your parent anymore.
And you grieve all the moments you should have had with them.
Yeah. 100%.
I remember my graduation was ruined because of my dad's drinking.
Yeah.
And it's a moment you grieve because you've not had it, and you've not had it like you envisioned it.
You know we're going to get it again.
Exactly.
Well, unless you do another one.
No, thank you. No. I think that's really challenging, because they're not who they should have been for you. They weren't there for you in the way they should have. And actually, they're completely unrecognisable from what they even were.
And it's not just my decision now, my husband's involved. Like, he's always been a huge cheerleader of mine, and he's just an amazing person. And he's been through his own struggles in life. And he constantly says, why'd you do it? Why'd you go and see her? Why'd you put yourself through it? And I'm like, because I don't know what to do. I don't know, if I don't see her, I feel horrendous. Yeah. But then if I do see her, I also feel horrendous. But then I also don't know if it's the last time I'm going to see her. So it's like I don't know what direction I'm going in. It's just,
I think you have to choose difficult. On that given day what's going to make you feel slightly less shit, because both options are going to make you feel pretty rubbish.
Yeah.
Right. So exactly as you've just said, well, actually, am I going to feel worse about myself if I do it, or worse about myself if I don't do it?
Yeah.
But it's not like there's a really good outcome and a really bad outcome. They're both bad.
Yeah. They're both not going to be great.
No.
My husband doesn't come anymore with me.
But then you wouldn't to him, right? I mean, as in, if you put yourself in his position and he was you would be heartbroken for him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he lost his mum in a different way, and it's devastating. And, we're never going to get her back. But he just resents everything she's doing, like everything she says. And I'm not flavour of the month for her. You know, I'm not her favourite child, which she often tells me. I'm the one that was born and ruined her life, apparently, as she tells me very often. And, you know, so, but it's just so hard, I think, as an adult when in my point in my life now, like I say, we've been through a hell of a lot last 4 years, losing Ed's mum, getting married. We've struggled massively with infertility. We've been through IVF for 4 years. Like, it's just been hell. And I crave my mum.
Yeah.
I crave that mother attention. And I always think there's like literally 2% minimal chance I think I might get her on a good day. If I go today, she might be sober. Because she is sometimes, not all the time, she is sometimes, but if I go that day, she may just be sober.
I feel like that glimmer of hope that we all have.
Yeah.
It's
tiny.
But it is tiny, but it's also one of the cruelest aspects.
Yeah.
Like right up until the day that we found out my dad had died, there was still that ever so slightly slim chance that he might wake up and that might be the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always go thinking, oh, maybe this weekend she'll know I'm coming, so she won't have a drink. I've been in their house for 2 days and she's not even noticed I'm there because she's completely out of it. And then she'll message me going, weren't you supposed to come down this weekend? I'm like, I was there for 2 days. Yeah. And she just has no idea. She has no idea. Or I'll be there for the weekend and I'll go home and she'll say goodbye to me. And then I'll get a message going, oh, it's so lovely to see you. Come again soon. And I'm just like, what delusional world are you living in? Like, you spend the entire weekend in bed. Like, it's almost like I think she just has this appearance of, I'm a wonderful mother. I do everything I can for my children. When actually, I think that's the perception she wants to give. But in reality, is totally wrong. She's not the mother I think she wants to be or can be at the moment or ever will be again.
Yeah, but I don't think my dad never admitted to being
She won't admit it.
But he also never admitted to his many, many failings. But then weird things, and I know I've said this before, like when he died, in his Amazon basket was a book about children of alcoholics and how it affects children.
Wow.
Never actually checked out that basket or done anything about it, but it was like, well, you knew, so you did know.
Yeah. There was one moment, I think I was doing a video for Piers of something. I always message Piers and go, I've got this idea, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, just send it all over. And I had my t-shirt on and I rang my dad FaceTime. I think, oh God, what's this about? He FaceTime. My granddad's very, very poorly. He collapsed a few years ago down the stairs and broke every bone and muscle in his body, and he's got locked-in syndrome at the moment, so he can only move his eyes. So he's kind of completely paralysed and he's 24-hour care. Anyway, that's my mum's dad. And when they visit, my dad FaceTimes me to see him because he can't move. And he was a huge part of my childhood. He was the one, I lived with him when I was born and lived there till I was about 5, 6, and pretty much had a huge impact in bringing me up. And we were there and I had my t-shirt on. And my mum said, what are you wearing? And I said, oh, it's the charity t-shirt. She said, what charity? And I was like, oh, do I lie? What do I say? And I just said, and my dad kind of nudged her and went, and I said, he doesn't want me to say. So I just said it. So I thought, why not? I think I'm doing great work. I love what I do for the charity. I think it's very important. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to say it. So I said, well, it's a charity for children of alcoholics. And she went, oh, right. And then an hour later, she messaged me saying, I'm really happy you're doing that. You'll finally realise what I went through as a child. And I just kind of was like, I was speechless, I think, for the first time in my life. Because I know my nan, and I knew my nan very well. My nan never drank when she was a child. My nan couldn't afford to drink. My nan had 3 jobs. My granddad worked 2 jobs. They had 2 children. My mum had me very young. We all lived under the same roof. Like, there was just no way that would have happened. And my mum had a very lovely childhood. And I was like, wow, okay. And it was almost like that nail in the coffin that she will never, ever, ever understand. She will never get it. She will never listen, and she'll never listen to what I've got to say or what's going on around her or her own. She'll never listen, or she'll never want to know her own struggles in life. And at that, I think that was the moment where I thought, you're going to die. You're going to die an alcoholic or something related to alcohol. That's your life. But I was absolutely floored when I got that message. I just couldn't believe it.
It's rare I'm speechless, but
I couldn't believe it. My husband was like, is she messing? Is she having a laugh?
It's complete, like, in denial, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if a stranger asked, as you said about your dad at Christmas, if you said, oh, do you want a drink? She'd be like, oh, no. She doesn't drink in front of people. She doesn't drink, like I say, she doesn't drink at home with a glass in her hand. It just doesn't happen. She thinks it's a complete secret. She doesn't, I think she generally thinks no one knows. And I don't know how she does that. She misses days just from passing out of her not knowing what day it is.
So not that I'm asking you to speak for her, and certainly not if it's difficult, kind of what does your sister think about you being involved? Kind of what?
I think she's got a very different relationship. I was always the target, I think, to my mum's. My mum's a very angry alcoholic, and for whatever reason, well, I know the reason, and I think it's the truth, whether people say it's not your fault. It's not my fault, but she had me when she was very young. And I think that really impacted her life. And my grandparents were very traditional. My parents got married when they were 6 months pregnant with me because they couldn't bring shame onto the family. And I think that really impacted my mum. And I think that made her go to the point where she is now. But I think having me very young was probably a factor of her drinking. Where my sister, which again, my mum tells me kindly often, we planned Becky. We wanted Becky. Which is fine. I get on really well with my sister. We're very good friends. We're very close. And I know that they wanted her. I know I wasn't planned, but that's very much been the message throughout my life. So she has a very different relationship, or did have a very different relationship with my mom. I always got the arguments and things thrown at me and the abuse at me, and the contents of my bedroom was often at the bottom of the stairs because she wanted me to move out, and nothing really happened like that to my sister. She was the golden girl, the one they wanted. And so I think the relationship there is different. Now it's going more like mine is, because she's just so far gone in alcoholism. She now doesn't really understand, or she lets my sister down a lot now. And my sister's getting married in 2 weeks, and she invited her to all the appointments and she didn't show up. And she invited her to a little mini hen do and she didn't want to come. And I think my sister gives her more opportunities than I do, but it's because she's had a very different relationship with her than I have. Now she's seeing it more, but she's not had it for as long as I have.
So you're going to be in the same room, presumably, in
a
couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
In terms of you and your hypervigilance and how that's going to affect you on the day, what do you think that will look like?
I get anxiety and stressed, and I'm looking forward to it because no one ever thought my sister would get married. My sister always said she wants to be a nun. So everyone was very surprised when she came home and said she had a boyfriend. We were like, excuse me. So she's getting married, and I think it's going to be a really gorgeous day. But again, we've separated totally from my mum being there. So she's not with us in the morning or the night before, and we've completely removed that situation. But she's next to me on the table, which I was happy with because I can almost control the situation a little bit more for my sister. But it's it's what I think frustrates me more, and what gets me more is the pretend. I have to pretend that it's okay. I have to pretend that we get on really well in front of people. I have to pretend that everything's okay, even though everyone knows it's not, and even though my dad knows it's not. We just have to, and I don't know why. I don't know why I have to pretend that I like my mum, because I don't. You know, I don't think she's a nice person. I don't think she's made good choices, and I don't think she's a good mother. But saying that out loud can often get you into a lot of criticisms, and people judge you for saying it, but it's the truth.
But that's, people don't know unless they've experienced it. And that's why something like Nacoa, and, you know, we've met each other face to face quite a few times now, but you put a whole load of COAs in a room together, and it's so powerful because it's a really, really safe space. Yeah. And, you know, you might have somebody who doesn't hate their mother or wouldn't say it, and actually are kind of very nurturing, but they completely understand why you might, and they're really, really okay with that. Yeah. And it's so powerful. I've never met another COA who I've had a conversation with who's kind of gone, oh, you sure about that? Or, I wouldn't do that, because actually it's a really accepting community. And, you know, those kind of personal experience pieces, the stories may be different. Yeah. But there's a common theme throughout them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I think my fear is, because I have backed off a lot with my mom, and I don't see her as much as I probably should do, or, well, how you think you should see a mother. I don't think that, but I think the fear is that she'll die and I'll have regrets.
But then kind of just to counter that, you probably are seeing your mum as much as you need to. Yeah. You're not seeing your mum as much as you think society or other people think you should be seeing her. But ultimately, if you really enjoyed that experience and you wanted to be part of it, you'd be seeing her more often. So actually, I think you need to be really kind to yourself and say, that's as much as I can cope with. Yeah. And that will be really different for lots of people, you know, in terms of frequency. Yeah. But it sounds like you've really thought about those choices.
Yeah. It's taken a long time to get there.
Have you had counselling or therapy or?
No. Never. I think, I don't know what it is about it. I think Nacoa is my counselling. I feel like every time I do an event, or I do a blog, or I think I've wrote a couple of poems now, and I always write those things on the back of a visit or on the way home from somewhere. And I feel like that's almost like my release of, okay, let me get this down. Let me write this. And in a way, it helps me be creative. It helps me help others. So I feel like that is kind of like my therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe when she passes away,
I do.
It could be a different story, because I won't have that environment anymore. But for now, I feel like that helps a lot. So even though I'm an ambassador now for Nacoa, I feel like they probably should be an ambassador of me.
But I think that's why people become quite passionate and get really involved, is because actually for most of us, it's the first time that we have felt really heard. Yeah. And we've had a really, really safe space to actually say those things.
Yeah. And the training's incredible as well. Like the amount of light bulbs that come on during those training sessions. Yeah. You kind of sit in your room on the call thinking, oh my gosh, that's me. Yes. Oh my gosh, I've got a name for it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, it's just...
So we all speak a language only we understand.
And the tribe is definitely real. Like, it is a tribe. It's, you know, it's one of the worst but best clubs to be a part of. You don't want to be a part of it, but you are, and it's wonderful.
Well, that's it. You would never choose it.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic that is there. And actually... it's, again, I've yet to encounter anybody who has said that it didn't help them. And that's different ways. And obviously the three of us have sort of taken it next level. But that's because that was help in the nicest possible way. Nacoa, great, but we wouldn't do it if it wasn't helping us as well.
exactly. And even, you know, to get those messages, even when you do the blogs on the website and you see people comment and going, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm like, or oh my gosh, I've never heard someone say this before, that just means so much.
Yes, I completely agree.
You just, I literally, as soon as something goes up that I've done, I'm literally refreshing to see the comments.
God, I thought that was just me.
No, I'm an absolute
I become
stalker.
obsessed.
Yeah, I do, because I'm just like, and I'm like to my husband, oh my God, look, this person said this and look, this person said that, because I just want it to get to so many people. I want people to, not because I want to be seen, and I'm not trying to be like, look at me. Like I want people to understand. I want to help people, and I want people to understand that they're not alone. And you know, they have got others that are similar and are going through it. And that's why I do it. It's because it's just so powerful when you can speak about it.
Yeah, I think you're really admirable.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
and you too as well.
Thank you. So we've got a list of questions that have been asked by some children.
Okay.
And let me have a look what I can ask you. Okay, so this is I don't know who, I think this has been asked by an 11-year-old. How do you prevent peer pressure from taking alcohol?
Yeah, I was talking to someone about it in work the other day, and it really upsets me that every year there's like a bottle that's got sparkly lights on it, or it's lit up like a Christmas tree, and it's just, the market is just so appealing, the market and the advertising. It's so difficult to stop that. And I don't think you're ever going to stop it, because peer pressure is, you know, it's not just drinking, it's smoking, it's everything. But I think if you're able to talk to somebody and you're able to be supported with your decisions. So if you understand that no means that you may lose a few friends, and no means that you may not be able to go and hang out with those group of people anymore, I think initially that's quite damaging, because you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I've got no one. But if you can overcome those feelings, and you can see past that, and you can see into the future, then I think, and you've got those people around you to support you with that, then I think saying no could be the best thing that you do. But it's talking to those people around you, and also surrounding yourself with people that aren't making you feel like you have to do those things. Because if the people around you are making you do things that you don't want to, they're not the right people to be around.
Yeah. Do you drink?
No.
I'm assuming not.
6 years sober.
Oh, well done. Amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't drink either, and that's been 4 years, because I didn't want to be my dad.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the easiest way to guarantee that I wasn't going to become like my dad, because I don't believe my dad woke up one morning and thought, oh, I've got a cracking idea. I'm basically going to do this to my kids and kind of lose I don't believe that's how addiction works. But I knew very strongly that I didn't want to be the same as him. And it seemed to me that the easiest way was to remove it entirely, because I don't think I necessarily had full control over it. So therefore, by removing it,
eliminates the issue. Yeah. I'm told a lot, and I do resemble my mum very much. I'm pretty much a copy and paste job of her. We are very, very similar in many ways. And it was one of the reasons why I stopped, because it terrified me to see how my nan passed away, and to see not only how quick it happened for her, but what happened to her body, and seeing her in hospital, and the effects that it has on the human body is just terrifying. And also then the way my mum is with other people, and she's lost everyone. And I'm quite a sociable butterfly, so I couldn't imagine being in my bedroom all day, every day. I think I'd go crazy. And it gave me so much. And I was never a big drinker. I was nicknamed 2 Gins Jen for years, because I could never handle it. So I knew I never had an issue, but I knew at some point it could be, or it could potentially be, because of my family history. And I just wasn't prepared to do that. I was married. I had Ed, my husband, who I just adore to the ends of the world. And I just I wouldn't want to put him through that. And I just thought, you know what? I don't need it.
Yeah.
Jen, thank you. But just to end, I don't think you're a cut and paste of your mum, because you are genuinely one of the nicest
thank you.
people I have encountered in this whole place. And it's amazing to have you as an ambassador.
Oh, thank you.
But I think your bravery in being you in the situation you're in is just so helpful.
It's inspiring.
Thank you.
Really
Thank
inspiring.
you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure being in your presence, actually. You're both amazing for Nacoa. So yeah, I really appreciate you inviting me along today and having me.
Oh,
thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.